So first of all, welcome to the VCU State of the Research, which I will be presenting to a university-wide audience for the second time. But many of you probably know that I do present VCU State of the Research on an annual basis to the Board of Visitors, and I have to tell you, they are really impressed with the real important work that all of you are doing. Now, today is also the launch of VCU Research Week, and we'll be talking a lot about that. But the team at the OVPRI that has put this event together, and myself, we're really impressed with this great turnout, especially considering the planetary experiment that is going to be taking place in a very short period of time. I know we've probably run out of these special eyewear that we have distributed, but I hope we have great weather outside. In a couple of hours, you'll be able to witness the solar eclipse. And so before I get started, it is really my pleasure to welcome and introduce my boss and the president of VCU Health, Dr. Michael Rao, who's going to give you some welcoming remarks and probably tell you that each year we are eclipsing our previous year somehow. So he might. President Rao.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rao. Indeed, we are eclipsing in so many ways. And really, that's where I want to begin our conversation today, is with a real spotlight and focus on Dr. Srirama Rao and his team. I think about the last 5 years and the extent to which we have been able to really put tremendous effort and energy around this aspect of our mission. The research mission is a really important mission. You might remember that the state has specifically designated 3 particular universities who are the major research universities, and VCU is one of them. And there are a lot of different reasons for that, but there are a lot of impacts that come from that. One of those impacts is $10 billion and the creation of an enormous number of jobs. And let me mention, the number of lives that we save is also tremendous. But Sriram, your leadership and your service toward this aspect of our mission, which is a very sizable part of our mission, and your team, a huge thank you to you. And thank you for envisioning and conceptualizing the state of research presentation, because I think it's important, and I think it's very critical that the entire university community develop a deeper appreciation for what it is that we are doing and why this aspect of our mission is so critical. It isn't just critical for Richmond. It isn't just critical for VCU. It's critical for the entire state. It is absolutely essential. And for that matter, so much of the world. Really important to solving so many of the problems that we have out there that we just have not been able to make come to solutions with. And so, Sriram, you said it well when you started talking. You said you, our faculty, our staff, and our students who are involved in our research mission, you've made this an R1 research university. You have made this a very strong institution, but you've done it in an interesting place. You've done it at a time that's really critical for our country, because this is what's making this institution a truly public research university, right? So you combine a tremendous focus on research together with being an accessible institution and a major academic medical center that is the safety net, the primary safety net of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and it is one of the few that is able to do the tertiary and quaternary work that no other hospitals that are within a reach of this institution can do. And frankly, for that matter, when I think about some of the major undertakings that we've taken, such as Children's Hospital, we now have children who are coming to us from all over. In fact, by the way, we're already oversubscribed. Just a tremendous importance to our country, not just to Richmond or to VCU, and certainly not just even to the Commonwealth. So I'm really appreciative of the ways in which you have focused on research and given it the kind of spotlight and attention that it deserves. And if you think about it, it really is this last 5 years where we've seen this trajectory, right? 70% of what you've seen just in terms of funding, which is really only one measure of the commitment to research in this mission at this institution. But that's a great measure. It's an important measure. 70% of it achieved in just the last 5 years. Think about some other big things that have happened, like the Stravitz Sanyal Liver Institute, and the emergence of new medicines that are going to be really critical for us. That has international global impact, by the way. And speaking of global impact, think about Medicines for All. That's why the governor has put us in what's called the Research Triangle. It's largely because of the pharmaceutical engineering work that we're doing. And then there's the Wright Center, which reports to you, based on the CTSA grant. The Clinical Translational Science Award that we get from the NIH, still our largest singular grant that we get at this institution, started about, well, I've been here 15 years. 15 years ago, I remember it was in my very first year. Really, really proud of that. But why has all of this happened? A lot of this has happened because we've had very focused, purposeful conversations with our faculty colleagues around what really matters and what are our real strengths. And that's put together teams. So when you think about a research university, what you really need to be thinking about is not walls, it's not roofs, it's not buildings. What it really is, it's a reflection of the faculty. It's absolutely a reflection of the faculty. And I'm very, very proud of this faculty. And I'm proud of you for bringing our faculty together. And a lot of it focuses on levels of innovation that just is not occurring at so many other institutions. We have a lot of people in other institutions who still kind of focus on that single investigator mode of inquiry. You know, I'm not sure that that works all the time. I think it works part of the time. But the truth is that our faculty and the staff who support our faculty, and on top of that, the students who are deeply engaged in this research, the next exciting generation of innovators, the next exciting generation of people who will solve problems, who will save lives, who will improve human lives everywhere. That's what's really, really exciting. And it's all being done much more inclusively than you will find at most institutions. You know, what I was thinking about, Srirama, before I walked over here, is I was thinking about the State of the University address, and I don't know how many of you paid attention to how much I focused on research, but I combined a lot of that with a focus on the arts and the humanities. Why did I do that? I did because we continue to need to focus on how research matters, why research matters, and it can't just matter to us. Design and how you communicate what the value of your research is and how it lifts and improves lives is just as important as what you're doing. Because if you can't reach lives to improve those lives, you've missed out. And that's one of the things that I think is a fault of a lot of major research universities is we don't reach the people who sometimes need us, oftentimes need us. The other thing it does is it really helps us understand that we are human beings. And it's really critical that we set priorities based on how priorities need to change, based on how people change and their needs change. That's very, very important. And so, Srirama, you've done all of that. I cannot thank you enough. I remember some of those meetings that you invited me to with all the faculty members who came together and helped us develop what you call the One VCU Research Plan. It was an excellent move, and it really helped bring us all together. It helped bring me together with where we need to focus in those 4 areas. And everything that we're doing now really fits into that, and our faculty hires, Provost Soteropoulos, now fit into that. That's critical. Absolutely critical. You have to remember the importance of this aspect of our mission. It is not just a simple mission. It is a complex mission, and it has a very, very big duty to the Commonwealth of Virginia and people all over the world for that matter. Remember, we have a wonderful campus in Qatar, in Doha, Qatar. And that's a critical part of how we're getting the word out about what VCU's impact is. So, The humanities and arts are a critical part of what we need to bring together, and that's why we have selected some of the areas that we have. Sriram, I want to hand the mic back to you, but I also, well, you have your own little mic thing on your tie. But technicalities aside, thank you, thank you, thank you. That's one of the most important things I came to do, is say thank you to you, and thank you to the team you've built, and thank you for mobilizing all of us and elevating the aspect of our mission that is probably the most important to so many human beings out there, including in creating jobs and opportunities that otherwise would never exist. So, with that, Mr. VCU Research, let's hear from you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, President Rao, for those very elegant and introductory and welcome remarks, and for really reminding us how VCU, over the course of the last 5 odd years, has truly grown into and become a powerhouse because of the research and all the innovation that is taking place here. And as you rightly said, it is having a huge impact not only on our internal stakeholders, our students, our faculty, our researchers, our staff, but also the patients and the communities we serve, and locally, regionally, and now nationally and internationally, the impact that we are having. So it is a pleasure for me to be here to deliver this state of VCU's research to you all, and also the launch of VCU's Research Weeks. This is truly, the Research Weeks is truly a celebration of everything that is happening, what our students and faculty have accomplished in the last 12 months, and we are going to, over the course of the next several weeks, almost 3 to 4 weeks, part of Research Weeks, celebrate over 50 events. Is that right? Is it close to almost 50 events now that we have planned? I'm really excited about that, and the State of the Research is really meant to jumpstart and kickstart this Research Weeks. Now, before I do that, I do want to acknowledge several people who have been instrumental in creating the format today and the planning of the Research Weeks, and I want to really point out to Lydia Klinger, who is here, who along with Zena Hollinger and David Oglethorpe and Emily Komornick and Christina Montgomery and Lisa Balance, and so many other people in the various units across the university who have created this month-long celebration of the research that you all are doing. And then we are really excited to, and I'm really excited and looking forward to that. And we also have part of this, a keynote address next week that I know several of you have signed up, where the former director of the CDC will be there, and she'll be giving a keynote talk, and I'll do a fireside chat with her. So as part of my presentation today, I will be providing an overview and highlight some of the research that is taking place, and also talk about the growth that has taken place over the course of the last year. I apologize in advance if you find that several of the people that you thought should be there haven't been mentioned, or some of the topics that I should have talked about haven't been mentioned. I believe there are the annual reports that are on your chairs. There's a lot more detail there, and so really looking forward to sharing with you the highlights of what you all have done. I think President Rao was right in mentioning during his State of the University address, our provost has said this, the last year has truly been one of the best for VCU. We have seen record enrollment. We have seen our development funds that have been at the highest ever. Our rankings as a public innovative university in the top 20. Our Blue Ridge rankings have improved. Our rankings of the individual schools and colleges are up. The number of graduate programs that are in the top 50 are up. All in all, we are really doing incredibly well. And what I present to you today is really the work that is taking place across all our campuses, including our campus in Qatar. And then because of all the collaborations that are taking place across the globe, not just nationally, the impact of what VCU is having is really incredible. We have been able to recruit people from not just within the region and the country, but internationally. And it's because of a reputation this recruitment is taking place. And why is this important? Because these people are the future workforce that the Richmond Metro is going to need, especially as we grow. And as you all know, the Biden administration has recognized and designated Richmond as one of the 31 technology hubs in the entire country. So whether it is semiconductor research or microchips or AI or healthcare or devices or drugs, we at VCU are going to be at the forefront of making sure that we can facilitate and enable this. VCU is truly a powerhouse. President Rao just talked about all the jobs and the impact on the economy that we have had. So this is truly who we are, and we as an institution are truly growing at an exponential rate. Now, if you look at, Dr. Rao just mentioned how our research funding has grown really 72% in the course of the last 5 years. We were at about 270 million, and now for FY23, we were at 464 million. And the trends are growing. I don't know where we will end up this year, but we are definitely on the right trajectory. But all of this happened because so many of you in this room and outside were involved in submitting important and competitive proposals. And we grew our proposal submission by over 50%. And majority of this growth, the steep growth that you are seeing, has happened after 2020 when we implemented the strategic plan for research. And I'll be talking a lot more about that. And of course, our rankings have grown. We were in the 60s in 2018 to now being in the top 40s. Now, several of you are probably, we always talk about research awards and funding that we bring in. But as some of you know, or many of you know, the rankings are based not on the funds we bring in, but they're based on expenditures. And again, if you look at where VCU's research expenditures have grown, since 2018, when we were at 246 million, we were ranked number 65. This exponential growth that has taken place, and we reported 406 million for FY22, and that is what got us the 47th ranking. And just a couple months ago, we have reported for FY23, our research expenditures close to 400 and, oh, that's incorrect. That is not 464. It is 480 million, and that slide is also not correct. It is 95% growth in research expenditures since just last 5 years. Just kind of think through this. And almost doubled our research expenditures. I don't know where our rankings will be next year, but we are hopefully going to be on an upward trajectory. So much of this, as President Rao said, has been very intentional. And I'll talk to you why that is important. But if you look at just the sheer numbers of where our growth took place last year, the 464 million, it was with all our schools and colleges, as is the case with any university that has a major medical school. We had significant funding, almost nearly 50% from the School of Medicine. But the other schools, education was at number 2, our College of Engineering, our pharmacy and humanities, and all these other schools grew. And what is also really important for a university like VCU is we truly have a diversified portfolio of funding. We have funding that comes from the federal agencies, from the state, from industry, from foundations. If you look at our federal funding, it grew last year by 20%. And of this growth, majority of it was from the NIH that grew by 24%. We also had funding from the Department of Defense and Energy and the Department of Justice and Education. All of these areas are growing within VCU. Our industry money has grown. A large part of it is because of clinical research and trials that we do, and that happens because of the VCU health system that we have. That is so important. If you look at where this growth took place, it took place on both campuses. Yes, the health science campus is the larger one, and it shows you the distribution of direct and indirect dollars because those are important, and I'll talk to you more about that. But this growth is taking place, and it has also, the growth has been commensurate to the implementation of our strategic plan. If you look at the individual schools and colleges that matter to all of you, what is really nice is if you look at these trend lines, these are not matched for dollars, just trend lines. From 2020, most schools and colleges have shown an upward trajectory. Even the couple of schools that showed a slight decline, dentistry and Wilder and nursing, if you look at the numbers this year, they're all on an upward trajectory. So I am extremely pleased at the way with which most of our schools and colleges are moving forward with the research trends that we have here. Now, I could talk to you all day about ranks and numbers and the impact of grants and funds, but what really matters, more than the numbers, more than the dollars, is the impact of what we do. Are we impactful or not? If you just look at, this is just again a glimpse of a handful of people, the likes of Dr. Ken Kendler and Alex Christ and Dr. Sanyal, they represent the top 1% of faculty whose work is being cited in their fields worldwide. That's amazing. We have the likes of Dr. Sarah Spiegel and Barbara Boyne, who are in the top 100 of female researchers, to Vanessa Shepard. Dr. Shepard has been listed as the researcher, the American Cancer Society Researcher of the Year. And then, of course, you heard from Dr. Rao, the renewal of the CTSA by Jerry Moeller, and of course, everyone has heard about Dr. Wynn and the renewal of the Cancer Center grant, and more importantly, the comprehensive status and medicines for all. In addition to all these people, Dr. Chris, Dr. Kendler, and Barbara Boyne, Dr. Boyne, they're all members of the National Academies. National Academy of Science and Medicine and Engineering, and we have others, Dr. Wolf and Dr. Barkin. They're all National Academy members, and we have so many people who are now being recognized into the National Academy of Inventors. Now, every time I tell this little story, people seem to be surprised. A lot of you know this. One of our alumni actually won a Nobel Prize back in the day. One of our own faculty here has won a Nobel Prize for chemistry in the early 2000s, Dr. Fenn. And there are a number of new people who don't know this, and they find it absolutely astounding that we have people like that here at VCU. What this means is research and innovation and impact is part of VCU's DNA. That's who we are. So all of this growth, of course, as President Rao said, has been very, very intentional, this exponential growth. And to be intentional, you have to be strategic. Through the work that you all did, several of you were involved in creating the strategic plan for research. We created these 4 initiatives that you all know: enriching the human experience, optimizing health, research in the area of justice and equity, and sustainable energies and environment. But I think the important thing here is to recognize that, first of all, between the 4 initiatives, it covers, I think, almost 90% of all that research takes place in the individual schools and colleges. But the research that is going on in areas, if you look at the focus areas, they're not happening in isolation. If you look at various areas, whether it's neurosciences or cancer or ethics and pedagogy or research in machine learning and virtual reality or in cybersecurity or in climate and energy, they are all interconnected. And we are addressing global challenges through a sense of collaboration. And if you look at all the work that we are doing here, we are impacting and addressing some of the global, most important grand challenges in the space of climate change and energy, in the space of health, societal well-being, and chronic diseases, and developing new advanced technologies, and we are addressing national security needs. When we look at all the important work that you're all doing, this is something that President Rao has talked from the time I have been here. It's important to the provost, it's important to the SVP for Health Sciences, and it's really important for me that we invest in the research enterprise so that you all, our faculty, our students, our researchers, and our staff are successful. And we have been investing. I will be the first to say, although 30 million seems to be a lot of money in the last 2 fiscal cycles, that it is not sufficient for a university our size. And President Rao is mindful of that, and we are all working towards increasing it. But we have been investing into our faculty. We have invested just in the last 2 fiscal cycles 74 teams of faculty members or individuals and invested about $7.5 million. We have put in close to over $11 million in terms of either state money or our own internal funds from the university into the state-of-the-art equipment that are aligned with our 4 strategic priorities. And we have put in almost close to $10 million into our research institute centers and core labs. Why is that important? The core labs, for those of you who may not fully comprehend, or I think most of you do in this audience, definitely, we need really high-end, state-of-the-art, sometimes very expensive equipment that individual labs can't have. We need access to technical staff who can run these kinds of high-end equipment. And we are investing this money, about $4.5 million, just in people, the faculty and the technical staff to run this. So whether it's cores like the high-performance research computing, or it's the genomics core, or the nanomaterials core, or imaging core, we are beginning to see a huge return on that investment in the form of usage. The number of people, faculty, and students who are using these cores has gone up. It is resulting in impactful publications that are coming out. It is resulting in grants that are being submitted and grants that are being awarded that is contributing to this overall, and most importantly, the impact that we are seeing. The same thing holds true for our research institutes and centers. Some of these societally important issues, for example, women's health, or addiction, or research in the humanities areas, or rehabilitation and those kinds of things. These are areas of research that cannot be solved by any one discipline. You really need to bring people from different disciplines together, and that is what our research institutes and centers do. We have a very high bar of identifying which are our university-wide centers, and we have been investing money into these centers, and we need to do more. I'm really cognizant of the fact that we need to put more into these centers and institutes. But the impact they're already having is really, really amazing. So I talked about the investments we are making into people, our faculty, our researchers. Just wanted to remind, and this is a theme that President Rao also talked about, we are investing in all kinds of grants. The seed grants, where individual faculty can develop ideas, to teams of people, the multi-PI grants where these people can apply for larger funding, and you all, several of you have been recipients, whether it's the Accelerate grants or the Breakthrough grants or the Momentum grants. And the important thing here, though, is that we are looking for return on investment in the form of you all then applying, taking your ideas, developing them and maturing them, and applying for these extramural grants. However, as Dr. Rao just mentioned, we are really committed to supporting the research that takes place in the area of arts, humanities, and social sciences. And through collaboration with Provost Soteropoulos, his office, and my office, we have committed funding to what we refer to as the Arts, ARS is what we call it, the Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences Fund, where we have no expectation that faculty have to have extramural funding. What we are seeking is scholarship, a great publication, a great book, an impactful proceeding, an impactful conference, an impactful event, impactful theatrical presentation. That is what we want to see there. And in looking at the kinds of applications that we have seen, the provost and I looked at some recent rounds. It is amazing, the quality that we are seeing in these areas. And President Rao was absolutely right. Increasingly, humanities and social sciences is going to interconnect into a lot that is happening in other fields. And so this is what we are trying to foster here through all that we are doing here. We have made commitments for the last 2 years, and we are going to continue to commit this year and next year again. Let me take a few minutes to really talk about the impact of what some of our faculty are doing. And again, this is just a glimpse of a handful of people that we have randomly picked. There's several great people that I could be talking about. Our faculty in the School of Education and Humanities and Wilder and Social Work, etc., are working at the forefront of societal well-being. They're looking at issues of mental health. They're looking at issues of underrepresented minorities. They're looking at issues of inequities and working across. And if you look at somebody like Dr. Smith, who is a chemist, he's utilizing his NSF funding to really look at how do you keep underrepresented minority students in the Ph.D. programs. And when he has a little extra time on his hands, you've all seen this, he's busy competing in world strongman competitions. This was quite recently. I'm now afraid to shake hands with this man, that I might just get crushed, but this is amazing. Research that we do in addressing health and chronic diseases, we do a lot across the institution. The MCV campus is obviously at the forefront of it, but we have faculty in engineering and humanities and in Wilder and in education who are also working on different aspects of chronic diseases and health. But the MCV campus, where we have nursing and dentistry and College of Health Professions and the medical school, of course, we're working on aspects where people are doing fundamental sciences, basic sciences, and applied research to address issues of cancer and addiction, whether alcohol or opioid use, or disparities, and so much more. I'm trying to summarize the entire basic sciences and health sciences with just one slide. But you get the point. We are doing really impactful work. We are also in the unique situation where VCU takes advantage of the incredible opportunity VCU Health offers by bringing our research to the people who need it most, and these are the patients. We have seen a phenomenal growth even in the space of clinical research and trials. We have over 5,000 patients or participants who are involved in clinical research, and this is growing. Over 1,000 plus clinical studies that are taking place right now. And there are a number of faculty who are involved in this effort. You have the likes of Dr. Greg Hunley, in the cardiovascular space, to Nick Johnson, who's in the neuroscience and musculoskeletal space, to Dr. Amy Salisbury, who is looking at the long-term impact of COVID on children and teens, to Dr. Pokelpovich, who's looking at cancer trials, to Dr. Lisa Merkier, who's been doing a lot of work as well, and to Dr. Sherry Barkin, who's doing a lot in the pediatric space, and Arun Sanyal, of course. We keep hearing of him all the time and all the important work he's doing in liver and metabolic research. So one of the things that is important for clinical research and clinical trials is IRB approvals. And we have been hearing of the challenges that you all have been facing in terms of what it takes to apply and what it takes to get your approvals done, and we have heard you. This is work in progress, but I want to just let you know, from the time proposals are submitted, full applications into the system, and by the time they are being approved, we have reduced, thanks to the efforts of Dr. Sandy Brooks, who is now taken over as the new director of our Human Research Protection Program, Dr. Moeller and Lisa Balance and others in their team, in Lisa Balance's team, we have reduced the approval time by 80% for full board. We have reduced times for these other expedited and exempt by almost 60 to 70%. And we get hundreds of protocols. This is not just 2 or 3. And I will also say this. Yes, there are certain protocols that do take more time than others, and you often end up hearing about them. But in reality, we have really helped to bring down the timelines. If you look at the national averages, yay! Just look at the national averages. These are averages that are provided by the American Association of Human Research Subjects and Protection. They talk about the national median days, the red line. And VCU has now brought their timelines well below the national averages. And we are continuing to work. Another area where it takes a lot of time, we heard from you all, it takes hours to submit these protocols. We were told about 8 hours, and now we have brought that down to 1 to 2 hours. Look at the reduction in administrative time that we are working. It is still work in progress. But I'll say this, human research and clinical research is not just about IRB approvals. It is so much more. It is about strategy, it's about operations, it is about budgets, it's about data. So to improve and it has to do something with the VCU health system too. We work closely with them. So to improve the overall process and the efficiencies, Dr. Marlon Levy and I have charged a committee that is called the HRCTI, or the Human Research Clinical Trials Initiative, that is co-chaired by the Dean of the Medical School, Dr. Art Savidra, and Dr. Jerry Moeller, who are working with a number of subcommittees. They're all listed here, including Lisa Balance and Dr. Merck, who are here, who are going to be finalizing recommendations of how best to bring down the barriers that are currently there, and we further improve the clinical experience and the process so that we can have better human research, whether it's clinical research or trials at VCU. This is really important, and we are working on it. Moving to a different space, climate change and energy. We have people, again, across our university who are working in this space, whether it's the work that is taking place at the Rice River Center with work on carbon sequestration and carbon recycling, to the coral reefs, which are all a reflection of the local climate change, to work on batteries. How do you create these long-lasting, safer batteries? There are a number of people working there. Or Dr. Wolf, who's looking at the impact of extreme heat on health. And Dr. Jenna, who's sitting somewhere here, I saw him, oh, there he is, who is a theoretical physicist and internationally renowned, who is also in the space of nanoscience, is looking and is heading the Institute for Sustainable Energy and Environment, where all these elements are going to be looked into. It is amazing what work is going on at VCU. Our very talented faculty on both campuses are leveraging technologies such as machine learning, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, to address all kinds of fundamental issues, whether it is cyber crime or it is using virtual reality to address healing, or to making sure our satellites are resilient, to making sure our nuclear reactors are protected. All of this work is going on at VCU across our campuses. Talking of national security, over the course of the last few years, and most recently with the arrival of Dr. Nibir Dar, who worked for the last 30 years in the Department of Defense, we have been able to secure, through his efforts and his leadership, the Convergence Lab initiative, which really addresses the vulnerabilities of the Air Force and the Army in terms of the educational needs and the research needs, and through a leadership role that VCU is going to take, where we will bring about 50 universities into the network, we are going to address the needs of national defense. That is happening here at VCU, and you'll be hearing a lot more about this, and we've just received funding that's listed here. This concept of convergence labs, where technologies, like in his case it is infrared and radio frequency and edge and all of that coming together, the Provost's office, Provost Soteropoulos, is leading this concept of convergence labs at VCU for AI. You're going to hear a lot more from him and his team about how they're going to bring together the educational and research enterprise, and we'll be working very closely with him to advance on the research side. Talking of AI, this is another area where we have a lot of strength. We have been investing in this space too, and we have faculty who are addressing issues of cybersecurity or developing how to create better AI algorithms, or those who are addressing leveraging AI to address healthcare, and in arts and innovation. All of this is happening here at VCU. We have talked a lot about the amazing work that is going on both our campuses, and President Rao was right in mentioning that there is really important work that is going on our arts school, our VCU Arts School in Qatar. We have really talented faculty there who are committed to research there too, and in the areas of emergent technologies and material sciences and cultural heritage and advancing pedagogies. And they have an institute for research there, which is called the Institute for Creative Research, where they have those series of labs that are listed there. And through a transdisciplinary efforts, they're trying to work together. And an example of that, there's been some publicity around it, they have been able to bring arts and design and nanoscience all together to create these fabrics that have better thermal insulation and also more vitamin D absorption. They're not only, it's the research, but they're trying to move this into the marketplace, and they're going to commercialize this. Talking of commercialization, we are dedicated to taking the research and innovation that is coming out, no matter which school or college, from the laboratories, from the inception to the marketplace. Just in the last 12 months, we've had 126 disclosures. Several patents have been filed. So many patents have been issued. We've been licensing these technologies to either established companies or to startups. Last year, we licensed to 12 startups, of which 7 were brand new startups. The national average, by the way, is 4. The revenues we are getting through these licensings and the royalties that are coming in when products are sold, we are pumping that back into the institution so we can have more innovation coming out. We've got to do more here too. Just in the last 10 years, just to make a point, we have had over 60 startups. 77% of those were in Virginia. Over 50% are still viable. And these companies, the investments that we have made have been whatever we've made, but they have resulted in close to $100 million of follow-on funding that is going to make a difference to this ecosystem that we are now growing here at VCU. It's not, these were all faculty-led startups, and we have a number of our faculty, Dr. Bowen, and who's looking at materials for safer surgeries, to Dr. Lee and Wang, who are developing these devices that can measure electrolytes at home, to Dr. Sif, who's looking at virtual reality for blind surgeries, to Dr. Saifo, who's looking at the drug that has been developed for sickle cell, which is so vital and important, that has not had good treatment modalities, moving into clinical trials, and Dr. Everett Carpenter and Bertino, who have developed these aerogels that will be used for energy-efficient housing. And that has been licensed to a company now, and we are going to see actually some of these people talk. They have some booths here. They're going to be happy to talk to you. In addition, we are now creating these startup accelerators, where these nascent ideas, pre-startups and early startups that are not ready for prime time, we are going to pair them up with these people who are called entrepreneurs in residence, who've done this for a living, who know what it takes to mature these startups to a point where they're ready for prime time, that they can get the investments and move forward and move it into the marketplace. We're doing that, thanks to the efforts of Dr. Evelina Micheva and her entire team that is leading the Tech Transfer and Ventures program. Really proud of what she and her entire team are doing in this space. I talked about our faculty-led startups and innovations. This is across the enterprise. You've heard so much about the Da Vinci Center that Garrett Westlake and others are leading, and especially the work that is coming out of the Shift Retail Lab, where our students are being trained to become the entrepreneurs. Imagine the power of what will Richmond look like when all of this translates into reality in the next. More and more of these companies are coming out. If we have 10 startups a year, in the next 10 years, we have hundreds. And this is just the beginning. Talking of students, President Rao touched on that. They are the future. For a research enterprise that is going at the pace at which it is, we have to do more to integrate students into the research enterprise, our undergraduate and graduate students. And Herb Hill and others in the provost's office are really looking at this with this effort where every RAM is a researcher. We'll be working closely with the provost's office and others to make this a reality. And our postdoctoral fellows as well. Let me just spend a second here. This is work in progress, ladies and gentlemen. Compared to just about 300 students in the 2020s, we now have double the number of undergraduate students in research. But for an institution the size that we are, this has to really ramp up. And the provost and the president are really committed to ramping this up, and we will be at your the sidelines to help you with that. Look at the number of Ph.D. students. It's increasing. We are headed in the right direction, but we have to, again, increase. An area of concern is postdoctoral fellows. These are the most experienced fellows and trainees that we have who finish their PhDs can truly make a difference in the labs. They mentor the undergraduate students. They assist the faculty in doing some of the most innovative work. My entire research career was dependent on the tens of postdocs that have gone through my labs. This is a national trend where they're beginning to decline, and we need to fix this. Through the efforts of Dr. John Ryan, who is here, and Dr. Art Savidra, and several of the other deans, this is an area we are going to be looking at. So I have, up until now to the final part of my presentation, the last few slides, I have talked a lot about the successes that we have seen, the highlights of what is happening, but we need to look at what's ahead. As this research enterprise grows and is growing at this exponential rate, we have to be really nimble. We have to look at our strategic plan and the investment strategy and reimagine it based on the growth that we are seeing. If we don't, we will slip. We can't just be doing the same. What are the key areas that we need to be really mindful of? These are 5. The most valuable asset are people. What do people need? Resources. We need to provide the resources. How can resources function? We need an organizational effort to make it happen. Infrastructure to sustain all of that, and finally, a culture that values all of this. Let me just spend a few minutes because this is where we are going. Faculty. This is an area of utmost importance to the president, to the provost, to the SVP of the health sciences, and all the deans who are here. We need to retain the most talented of faculty, and we need to recruit more faculty. The provost and the president are working on this concept of cluster hires. And how do we enhance that? And faculty of color and the underrepresented minorities. We need to bring in more of that, and that is work in progress. We have made a lot of progress, but that's where we're going to be looking at. Staff. I want to take a moment to talk about staff. Staff, these are the technical staff, and these are the research administrative staff in the OVPRI and across the units who work behind the scenes. They work tirelessly. They are overworked. Many places they are understaffed, but they work behind the scenes to make a lot of what we are seeing possible. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the staff that support the research enterprise and say thank you for all that you do. We need to invest in our staff. I already talked about postdoctoral fellows and students. They are the workforce, our future. We have to do that. Resources. We have to fund the most innovative projects that are likely to make a difference and are going to be impactful. We are doing that, and we want to continue to do that. The institutes and centers and the core labs I talked about. One area that is really vital is the research IT. This is a very important area that is the fabric of everything that we do that holds on. We are investing in that. Clinical research and tech transfer I talked about. Promotion and tenure. That is another area where we need to really put value in terms of how we reward our research faculty. We need to create release time. This has been a big question of a lot of our teaching faculty who want to do more research, and this is an area of work. And the same thing holds true for our clinical faculty who want to find time to be able to do more research. Our development funds to support the innovative ideas that we are doing. Again, this is an effort that President Rao and Jay Davenport, the VP for Development, they are embarking on. Collaborations, integration of VCU, VCU Health. Infrastructure. We have to work, we recognize, to bring down the faculty administrative burden. This is a huge challenge. We're doing a lot, but more work is needed. Space, this is an issue that bothers a lot of people because our research is growing at such an exponential pace, and we need to make sure we have state-of-the-art research space available through efforts that our Vice President for Administration, Meredith Weiss, and others are involved with. We are looking at what are the priorities. There's a group of people who are looking at all the possibilities that exist, and within a 12-month time frame, they're going to be making some announcements of what is most feasible, first starting with the academic health science campus, and then also for the Monroe Park. This is work in progress. We'll talk someday more about FACR. We need to increase funding, our administrative funds. The FACR is for the funds that come with your grants to promote the facilities and administrative structures. We need that. For a university our size, the FACR we're bringing is not sufficient to drive all that we want to do, so we need to work there. The research we need to do needs to be aligned with national and federal priorities. Team science, we've talked a lot about that. Community engagement, this is something I'd like to stress on. The work we do, if it is engaged with the community and they realize that what we do has the public good and what we do has an economic well-being, they will be our biggest evangelists. We need to work more with our communities, and we are doing that. And communication. We need to make sure that all the wonderful work that we do here, we are not just preaching to ourselves, but the rest of the world gets to know. And we are doing more and more to communicate that. And I want to thank all the communications people, starting from Grant Heston and David and others who are involved in this effort. So thank you for all that's happening. So I want to close in saying that it's been a tremendous year. We will be celebrating. I talked up front about a keynote address next week. I know hundreds have already signed up, so it'll be a wonderful conversation. She is a great speaker, and there's going to be a fireside chat that I'll be working with her. And several of our entrepreneurs and faculty members will be, after the speech, they'll be there behind in the corners here, and they'll talk about some of the innovations that they have done. And I want to close with this slide. First of all, I want to acknowledge the amazing team at the OVPRI, my leadership team that are all here, and for all the work that they have been doing, and all the administrators and all the leaders and everyone across the university, faculty and such. I want to thank you all for the amazing work that you're doing, but most importantly say, VCU's state of the research is growing, it is strong, it is impactful, and as we go with the onward, it's unlimited. So thank you for all that you're doing, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to share with you all what you all are doing. It's an amazing thing for me to do. Thank you.